Good morning or good afternoon. I know this is your final session of today, and I don't want to put anybody asleep, but I am going to start this session by how I would start most of our mornings at desk, and by doing a little bit of a mindfulness, breathing and calming. So I'd invite you to sit in a comfortable position. Remove anything that might be causing any tension around, feet to the floor and hands somewhere that you are comfortable, and close your eyes if you wish. If you're more comfortable, no problem. So each morning our students come with very different experiences, just as we have today. For the next 35 minutes or so, just try to be present and just take in aspects that maybe make you feel that you could do some good from, some aspects that you are happy that your school can do and are doing. But mainly just give this time to yourself to enjoy what you hear, to relax. Don't think about the rest of your day, just in this present moment. You can feel a little bit of this morning already in your shoulders, in your neck, so just let them ease. You can probably already feel a little bit of pressure in your head, in all the ideas and the thoughts that have been shared with you so far. So just acknowledge however it is that you're feeling now. You may be at your best, but you may not be at your best. And either of those is okay. Take some deep breaths in, fill the lung cavity, and just release. Let your mind settle to where you are in these four walls, here and now. One more in and release. And when you are comfortable and ready, begin to open your eyes. And here you are. So good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm working at Dubai English Speaking School in Mecca, and I'm presenting today with my colleague, our assistant head, Jane. I'm really honoured to present in front of people who probably have a wealth of knowledge that I'm not claiming to have, but my presentation today very much is the on-the-ground experience of a school that maybe didn't always have an emphasis on well-being, but yet had happy, successful children, to a school which now has well-being as the forefront for all our children, and the small steps, but the big impact. I very much work in a mind map way, hence my presentation also is that way, and please feel free to use the note pages to scribble any ideas, tips, or things that you feel that you could use in your schools from here. So, as I said, do you mind doing this, Jane? Our journey begins here in Mecca at death, where there was, apologies, I'm not going to be able to take the IT side of this out of it, but where a like-minded bunch of people, we had happy children, successful children, a school we all enjoyed, but yet starting to hear things about child mental health, about rising of depression and anxieties and things from as little as Key Stage 1 FS children. So we started getting together and researching the benefits of mindfulness, like positive psychology with children, things like that, just different ideas coming from all sorts of different practitioners in the same environment. So yes, our ideas started to pull together and we began to kind of come up with a bank of resources, just very, very minimal things that we were doing in class, little bits of relaxation in the morning, little bits in the afternoon, starting to use that growth mindset that was buzzing about the place. So before we actually begin on the journey of where we went next, you've also got a little sheet in front of you, which you can feel free to take a couple of minutes now. It's just a sliding scale as to where maybe you feel your school, your class, your workplace, where you are on a well-being journey. You can feel free to, as I say, make notes on the top, on the scale, wherever it is that you feel comfortable. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of time for self-reflection before our journey is shared. Couple of ideas of your strategies or of, how you find it in the workplace at the moment. Okay, feel free to obviously continue on jotting down things as I'm speaking, but I'm going to move along. So one of our initial contacts is with a company and a lovely lady here who many of you may recognize. The program was called Sandy Seeds, and it's a mindful ecological education program that a lot of schools are using now for growing vegetable patches, environmental awareness initiatives, things like that. But we actually used our link with Justine to bring in the mindfulness side of things, which a lot of our own staff had already engaged in their own research. So Justine worked here with what we had as like play leaders in school. Schools are calling them all different names. I'm sure some of them are happiness marshals, some of them are positive patrol. We have some play leaders and we've got rights and responsibilities ambassadors. And we said that we were going to begin to train the children as much as we were training the staff. So mindfulness-based training began with our littlest ones from year 1 and up. And Justine really enjoyed that our school was so on board the mindfulness side of things. And we've been lucky enough to have a top-down approach in that our SLT has always seen the benefit of this mindfulness side before just the side of education. So following our initial training, the majority of our, a huge percentage of our staff went under level 2 mindfulness-based training, where we understood the neuroscience behind some practical elements to engage in the classroom. One of the biggest steps we took though was actually timetabling mindfulness, which can sound a little bit, doesn't really go with mindfulness should be as and when, but allowing each teacher and each child in class to have those 10 minutes coming from, as I did with you guys this morning, experiences that are totally different from one another. We engage in just 10 minutes of time where we all ground ourselves. Our brains are calm, we're ready for learning, we're ready for the day. It's specialists, class teachers, LSAs, it's a school-wide initiative, and it really, really has made an impact on the children and on the teachers as well. Our admin staff, they come and join in, SLT, as Jane knows, come and join in different classes, and it's really, really nice to see how actually the children often lead it in class as well. That is not to say that mindfulness is, you can just press on, is not done as and when also, but often that few minutes coming from a crazy household that they may have come from with 3 or 4 siblings and a long drive, a bus journey, it has really, really benefited, particularly our morning sessions. So it's been a really, really good aspect to our well-being. Just on the previous slide there, you may have seen it had the what works. So this initial mindfulness, positivity, that was recognized by the runners of What Works in 2016. So my colleague, who is the former moral education and PICG leader, herself and Justine presented at What Works Happiness, because they were starting to kind of hear a little bit about our children are engaging in this a little bit more. So that was a really good honor to be at the first What Works. So continuing on, as you can see by my visual, mindfulness and well-being has been quite a growth in our school. So we continued on by growing and looked at our staff, which Jane is going to explain a little bit to you.
So really it's about developing the culture in the school. And when I look back at the journey of the school, some of that culture has developed through our coaching program. I spoke a little bit at What Works 2 years ago about how we developed coaching language and coaching practices in school, and basically it was because we joined with a company called British School of Coaching and looked at a coaching program whereby we were training teachers to be qualified coaches. So there was a rigour to what we were doing. It was firmly laid in terms of an assessment, in terms of accreditation with the Institute of Leadership and Management, and what we felt was it was really beneficial for people who were leading teams of people. So our SLT were trained, our middle leaders that were involved in year groups, they were all trained, and it took a year for that training to take place, but then what we found was they were then using that language of coaching in their team meetings and with the children. So very much open-ended, very much open questioning, asking, instead of providing solutions to an issue, very much posing what the issue might be and asking questions around it. So flipping it. Who can help you with this? What do we all need to do in order to contribute to this? What if we, and posing a question more like that rather than being very direct with our teams and with our staff. So over time, I'm talking about 6 years ago, so over time it's gradually had that language of coaching has had a huge impact in terms of how we treat each other as individuals, but also how we pose the questions to the children. And started to very much look at how that language is helping to shape our learners as being much more like mentors with each other. So the children are asking questions of each other. Would it help if? How can we do this together? So very much shaping the language around school. What we then did is we moved into looking at how we can support our parents. And we ran a parent mentoring program, which is very much looking at how parents can support their children with their learning at home. It just came from a session where we were talking about shaping the shape of the school, looking at your mission, your vision, your values, and very much we've embedded that in our vision as well. So we have wellbeing as core to our school development plan, and we look at how parents can use some of the strategies that we have in school in terms of transferring what does that look like at home. So our parent mentoring program is very much about trying to support our parents, giving them the tools. What sorts of questions could they be asking at home to support their children? What are the issues that children are carrying into school that can then be sort of maybe eased by our parent group as well? And we continue to run those sessions even today. So we have a group of parent mentors that, now and again we come together. So very much I think that has helped to shape the language and help to sort of engender what I would say is a very much a group of staff now that are very positive about the school. Our retention is very high. We don't have much of a staff turnover because they want to be in our, within our organisation, and that support still carries on in terms of team meetings and support of each other. What we did next was we then looked at our environment, and I'm sure in many schools, internationally there are staff rooms that aren't very, welcome places. It tends to be because time is tight in the course of the day, it's a quick bite to eat or a snatch drink here and there, and getting back in to be with the children. What we wanted to do is we wanted to change our environment a little bit to make it much more of value to our staff. and make it a place where they wanted to be. So we went from a very standardised staff room with just, a few very unloved chairs and, a photocopier was even in there at one point. And we really developed the staff room to make it much more like a desk cafe sort of feeling. So we chose muted colours, greens and blues. We chose some, the furniture, wooden furniture, and made it an environment the staff wanted to be in. And we looked at maybe holding our team meetings in there as well. So we regularly have a staff briefing in there. We put on sort of fruit and things in the morning so the staff can just take a couple of fruit to take to their classrooms. They're not having to rush around and think of, what do I need to eat today? We're providing healthy snacks for them. So that was really gratefully received by our staff. They really enjoyed the space. They enjoyed that environment. It's a bit like being in a cafe around in Dubai. So it has that relaxed feel to it that staff appreciate when they get that 5-10 minutes of break. Moving on from that, then we also looked at what else we do to provide well-being activities for our staff, so that they, yes, their job is to be there for the children, but we also need to look after the staff as well in order to, for them to do the job as best as they can. So the staff very generously, some staff put on voluntary activities before school. So we have staff swimming in our pool, we have running club, we have yoga. So lots of little different activities before and after school when time permits. But we also came together and designed a whole afternoon where we would put on activities and involve the whole staff. So even our site staff would be involved. Our admin team would come and help as well. And we'd actually have activities like playing rounds with each other, playing cricket with each other, and putting on some food as well, so that we were seen together as a community, supporting each other and sharing time with each other. And it's all about relationships and building those relationships, not just with the children, but with each other as colleagues as well. So again, that's had a very positive impact with the staff in terms of knowing that we value our well-being of our colleagues as well.
And being one of those staff members, have greatly felt that benefit that senior leadership are really, really warming and welcoming this idea of a whole staff well-being. We're really trying to get the positivity around, and I'll show you some of the initiatives now that we're involved in toward the end of our journey also. So then going back to each child in the class right in front of you. So the introduction, I'm sure most of you will be familiar with the introduction of moral education over the past 2 years. This has really, really made an impact in terms of developing character, developing consciousness. It's really, really good that we've dedicated that time, as all schools have. So I'm not claiming that this to be anything that we're doing differently, but just to have that time to develop that with the children. It's widely differentiated in terms of what our year 6s are looking at is so different to our year 2s, and they're totally developing the strengths that they need at that stage and at that age, which is great. And I think also it would be really nice, and I think has started developing, that a lot of the moral education teachers across Dubai are starting to meet and to mingle a little bit to discuss how we can kind of bring that even more forward and how we can develop it. The talk I was just in last was actually mentioning our past surveys and what a great tool this can be to monitoring, and a previous talk I was in saying about measuring well-being, and it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. It's next to impossible if you're not going to measure it in the right frame. But past does work as a little bit of a ground for how we see how our children are feeling day to day in school. I actually administered it recently with my year 2s, and the explanations that you do have to give on some questions are very different, because you're asking them, do you want to come to school every day? And to a 6 or 7-year-old, well, the obvious answer to that is no, I want to go to the beach, I want to go to the water park. But in unpacking that is, do you want to come to this school when you need to go to school? And the resounding answer is yes. Because I often tell them, well, I don't always want to come to school every day, I need a weekend too. So a lot of the past survey questions, when you actually go into them in a little bit more child speak, they really do give very, very valuable answers. That, along with, as I mentioned at the start, the growth mindset, our resilience building in bounce back. Children were starting to gain a broader aspect as to how they are feeling, not just am I happy, am I sad, starting to use greater vocabulary, starting to express themselves more, starting to advise each other to go and take a few minutes in the corner and calm down and use mindfulness if you're not feeling well. On the playground, the play leaders have been more visible. So it has all been quite a cyclical approach to the whole child, and it's been really, really amazing to see the impact, particularly of those children, which I'm sure we can all think that just have that little bit of extra emotional difficulty regulating it, maybe from home, maybe from peers, but they're starting to feel a little bit more confident because they have coping skills and they've got strategies through mindfulness and through recognizing what they need to do as well from moral education. Just as a little aside, that was my former colleague, and because of this work that we were doing, we were actually shortlisted from the visas over in London for the amazing mindfulness and wellbeing initiatives that we were starting in school. So that was a really nice honour to be over and to be with some of the big dogs in education at that. So then going into, there was obviously in all our schools, we've got so many events, and I didn't want to start bombarding with this is what we've done. So I picked out some of the key things that we've kind of looked at recently. With Anti-Bullying Week, we slightly changed the slant on that to Hello Yellow, not made by me, not just nipped from somewhere, but a really nice idea to start promoting positive mental health rather than looking at don't bully, don't do this, don't do that. We were looking at actually how you should react with a friend, how you should behave with a friend. We all dressed in yellow for the launch day. We had lots of positive affirmations and things around the school in quite an impact. The children had different activities that day. Some of them were focusing on kindness, some of them were focusing on courage, and some of them were focusing on hope, depending on the age group. We had a lovely lady visit us on emotional intelligence and recognizing emotions, and interestingly, in one of the earlier talks as well, not recognizing that you have to be happy or a happyology or feeling this all the time. That's not what we were promoting either. It was recognizing your emotion and how to cope with that then. The whole school have very much adopted this attitude of gratitude, and any of you that have been looking into happiness, mindfulness, well-being, gratitude is at the forefront so often. It's come up in different ways, how you can show it to adults, family, your relationships, your peers, and I just chose this as a really nice little example, because these are actually two boys in my class. One who has severe learning needs and difficulties, and he gets so excited and so happy at the idea of both someone in his class being grateful for him. He has a lovely smile. For him receiving that and the buzz that he got from that was amazing, but how also he can impact on somebody else's by filling in one of our little gratitude slips and just making their day. And it's something simple, but when you see that at a year 2 age, and then you see something similar at a year 6 age, it's a really, really fulfilling moment that you think, yeah, everyone is actually getting on here and they are feeling quite happy. And even when they're not, something like that, a little boost can help really nicely. On the buzzword of happiness and having our happiness agenda in Dubai and things like that, it is very easy to get caught up in that we need to be all happy all the time. But I just thought it would be nice to ask some children on the playground, actually, what do you feel happiness is? So I've just got a little clip, if you want to go into it, Jane, as to what the kids in our school are finding happiness at the moment. that was a little selection of our children on a ad hoc moment as to what is it to you. So yes, happiness. Just back in. Happiness can be all singing, all dancing, but as I've already mentioned, it's not just about promoting that in the school, it's the entire child and all of their well-being. Just pop into. Just before we go on to where our next steps are, if you pop into growing further. Sorry. Yeah, next steps in our journey. So there's 3 little initiatives that we're getting involved in, which we'd be more than happy to let you know more details. But I would like you to take this moment again to just have a little bit of self-reflection as to, is there anything that has sparked an idea, that is confirmation of an idea that you are doing well, or anything that you would like to ask myself or Jane, just as we kind of rotate around the room. So take a little moment to see maybe where you would like to be on your journey, or what your next steps may be, just so that you can have a little bit of thought for that for now. Very neutral, there's no tat around.
Did you work through the year, or?
Well, we did it kind of initially, as with any initiative, there was some resistance of people. How do you going to fit that in? Why do we? I'm more than happy as well to, myself and Jane can answer some questions at the end, no problem, give advice. I didn't particularly want to bombard with slides of websites or resources or things. But just to mention then, so obviously we're very comfortable in where we are on our well-being journey, and I think the staff are feeling, the kids are feeling, and one question here was about the parents. So obviously, and again from other talks that we've been at, parents are paramount to any school system, and getting them on board, as with any initiative, you're going to have some people that either doubt or not sure, or they're just not really seeing where you're coming from. But we ran, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 different parent workshops concentrating on how mindfulness works, why we're doing it. We did one separately on the introduction of moral education. We ran some on well-being and holistic development. So parents are definitely in partnership in our school. Did you want to say anything about?
I think as well, we run a regular forum, as I said to you, every month. So we have different topics of discussion at that forum, and it's up to parents if they want to come. We sort of put it on, try and pitch at different times of the day, so it's not just, parents of drop off, but some are working parents as well. So, but often we will take feedback from parents, what they want to find out more about or discuss about, and well-being often comes up. There's a lot around nutrition, a lot around, just generally, what more can we do in order to support our children. So I think, as Sarah was saying, I think it's about being proactive as a school. It's our responsibility to, support our parent body as well, and things are changing in terms of, looking at how we can support children with mental health issues as well. So there's definitely a lot more we need to do. This is all part of the journey, but I think definitely being much more open about it, having discussions, bringing experts in just to share a different aspect or a different perspective, I think is really valuable. So we try and do as much of that as well, so that there's a variety of what's going on in school.
And another point raised was just, where do we do mindfulness? Well, it takes place in any of our classrooms. As Jane mentioned, we've had quite a refurb in terms of making all the environments very calm, very open, very spacious. But it's really nice when there are still parents walking around, and there's teachers bringing their classes outside and doing mindfulness exercises outside. So it's totally a range, and wherever suits your setting works. So next in our journey, as I said, there's just 3 small initiatives that we're kind of involving ourselves in at the moment. So in line with our happiness agenda here in Dubai, we have taken on this Spread the Happiness Challenge, which you can find on social media. It's a lady called Shanette Basson, who is her goal is to make the ripple effect, essentially. If you can make yourself feel happy, your family, your friends, your class, your school, and then out to your community. And it really is that little ripple effect of just choosing. There are, of course, days where we don't feel it, but we want the children to try and recognize how we can and what impact they can have, particularly here in Dubai. So that's one of our, it's spreadthehappiness.co.uk, or on Twitter you can find her in the Shanette Basson. This is another one that we've kind of signed up to in terms of empowering our staff to have that little bit more of positive approach to their day. Some really interesting videos from a man called Dr. Andy Cope, which you would be probably familiar with if you're researching staff well-being and things. He does some really interesting talks and videos and just really good reflective thinking points that can be brought up in your staff meetings and things. So we're currently doing that with our teaching staff, our LSAs, and then we'll hopefully get our admin and parents involved in that as well. It looks at brilliant staff, brilliant brilliant schools, brilliant parents, and brilliant children, of course. So that is Andy Cope, if you're looking up. And then finally, we're currently undergoing a little bit of again, self-reflection is brilliant because we're undergoing a little bit of an audit of where we are at the moment for this Wellbeing for Schools award, just for another bit of recognition as to we are on the right path, but we can still further that and we can still have a greater impact for our deaf students, and then working with other schools as well, particularly in our non-for-profit organisations. So that is mainly all I had to say. I think I skipped you onto your task there now. But if you do have anything that you would like myself or Jane to clarify, to let you know, to discuss a little bit further, we can use these 5 minutes. And there is just that little QR code feedback. I think just one more slide. No, it's one more slide on. Yes, and just topped off as I came across it, considering I was all about growth and plants, it really is the flowers of tomorrow, beginning with today. Today has been a couple of hours and we've taken on so many ideas from different people, different workshops, but if you were to go back and impact on just one aspect of that, something may come of that tomorrow, and that really is where our journey began. Just some like-minded people with some ideas, which we sowed the seed, and that's where we are today. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. But please feel free to just grab myself or Jane if you do have any questions or